Part 23. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 221. In the wilderness on the edge of the immortal realm, the first ancient city, majestic, connected to the sky and the earth, can be called the eternal grand pass of the immortal realm. It has been standing here for an unknown number of years. Since several epochs ago, this ancient city has stood here, witnessing a period of history, and also witnessed the history of countless warriors from the immortal realm, throwing their heads and blood to resist the invasion of the dark realm. However, at this time, the atmosphere inside Xiongguan seemed very solemn. All the immortal warriors in the male city had solemn expressions on their faces, and their eyes couldn't help but look in one direction. There, a natural moat connects heaven and earth, dividing the two realms. For countless epochs, it has been the last barrier to protect the immortal realm. But now, the chasm is trembling, and the entire vast wilderness is trembling as well, as if it is about to break at any time. Not good. Deep in the imperial city, King Xian, who was sitting cross-legged, was suddenly startled. He looked at the place where the Bian Huang Tianchao was, his eyes full of solemnity. Although he only sent out a clone to come to the Bian Huang battlefield, the clone and the main body were still different. The minds are connected, and everything that happens there is known to him. The sky is trembling. Could it be that the true form of Wang Ziyu is being dispatched from the dark realm this time? Something is wrong. King Xian stood up and didn't care much. With a flick of his finger, he cast a spiritual thought into the depths of the immortal realm. Then, with a flash of his body, he disappeared into the imperial city and went to the wilderness of the two realms. King Xian knew that when the sky chasm trembled, a huge change must have occurred. Normally, when the sky chasm exists, the highest combat power allowed to pass between the two realms is the existence of the true fairyland. Even if it is the immortal king realm or the royal ancestor realm, the existence of the world can only be crossed by a clone of the mind of the peak of the true immortal realm, which cannot cause too much waves. But now, the sky is trembling. It is obviously not as simple as a clone of the king's ancestor crossing the border. Perhaps, there will be real immortality. The king crossed the natural moat and came to the immortal realm. At this moment, King Xian naturally did not dare to neglect. He immediately went to the natural moat and sent a message for help to the depths of the immortal realm. Deep in the immortal realm, there were still several sunken statues. The immortal king realm of Mian exists. Now, King Xian only hopes that everything is not as bad as he imagined. The two borders are deserted. Buzz, an indescribable sound, like the fluctuation of the world, containing soul-stirring magic power that makes people's hearts clench. In the direction of the dark realm behind the natural moat, there is an ancient bronze chariot, slowly driving towards the natural moat. And on top of this ancient bronze chariot, there is a burly figure like a demon, standing majestic. It's hard to describe what kind of figure it was. He just stood there quietly, but he naturally became the focus of the whole world. No one can ignore his presence. Just the aura naturally emanating from his body was like a black sun, burning the void and radiating in all directions. The ancient chariot is filled with the aura of chaos, as if it has been driving from eternity to take over the world and dominate the world. On the side of the immortal realm, King Xian looked at this ancient bronze chariot with solemn eyes, and he couldn't help but shout. "Enran, are you trying to cross the chasm by force?" The geniuses of the immortal realm who heard the voice of King Xian all felt as cold as if they were falling into prison. Who is Enran? He is the real supreme existence in the dark realm. There are countless eras in the world, and there are countless geniuses and enemies who have touched their hands. Blood. According to old legends, Enran once killed a being in the immortal king realm many epochs ago. There is no doubt that this is a truly extremely powerful being, pushing all realms and being respected within the universe. Now, this the supreme existence of the dark realm appears on the edge of the immortal realm and invades the heavenly chasm. Could it be that he wants to attack the immortal realm? Immortal King! Immortal King! Behind the golden sacred cow, a group of geniuses from the dark realm were shouting crazily, their eyes looking into the chasm full of fanaticism. Enran, the immortal king, is an invincible existence in the dark realm and is immortal. Legend. The immortal realm should be destroyed, and all the world should return to my realm. The endless majestic voice came from Enran's mouth, shaking the 10 directions and spreading throughout the world. The natural chasm has not been cleared, and it is difficult for Wangzi to cross the barrier. Enran, do you want to risk the death of your true body to cross the barrier? Xianwang snorted coldly. For thousands of years, due to the obstruction of the rules of heaven, the beings above the immortal in the foreign land have not been able to pass the test. He does not believe that Enran, one of the ancient ancestors of the foreign land, can actually pass the test. Haha, I have been waiting for hundreds of millions of years, all for today. Everything is ready. It's just a natural chasm, how can it stop me? The sonorous sound shook the world. After Enran said that, he calmly raised his head and looked in the direction of the ancient moat. He quietly stretched out a palm, made a lifting gesture, and pressed it directly towards the moat. It seemed as if he was going to fight the entire sky chasm with his own power. And with Enran's movements, there was suddenly endless pressure on the sky chasm. In the dark, it seemed that a supreme being had awakened and was angered by Enran. Arousing the power of heaven and earth, he suddenly pressed in the direction of Enran, as if to stop what he was doing. Haha, the natural chasm has blocked my domain for countless epochs. Now that I have crossed the barrier, how can it stop me? Enran roared loudly, the sound shook the heaven and the earth. He raised his arms together and walked up to the sky, completely unafraid of the endless pressure falling from the sky. Behind Enran, in the realm of darkness, there were countless paths reaching the sky. The black light rising from the ground rose into the sky, suppressing the 10 directions, and attacked together to the place where the sky chasm was located. Those were several ancient weapons, each of which exuded the aura of eternity. They were extremely ancient and powerful. They were without exception, there is an invincible wave that is fluctuating and blooming. They all have an extremely noble status in the realm of darkness. Because they have a noble origin and are the weapons of the immortal king, and they are extremely noble. Boom! 4 ancient soldiers, showing the majesty of the immortal king, actually manifested 4 huge phantoms connected to the sky and the earth. It was the Dharma body of the immortal king, descending from heaven and earth, waving the ancient soldiers in his hands, to help Enran fight against the natural chasm. Powerful. Even King Xian couldn't help but feel shocked when he saw this scene. The weapons of the 4 immortal kings were all activated to the extreme by the immortal king. In addition, one came from across the realm and ran. This time, the dark realm dispatched 5 immortal kings. No wonder Enran dared to cross the chasm. 5 immortal kings crossed the border. For the immortal realm, this is definitely an unprecedented disaster. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 222. Above the chasm, the power of heaven and earth erupted fiercely, confronting the manifestations of Enran and the other 4 immortal kings. The power of heaven and earth has been mobilized to the extreme, equivalent to the power of the entire sky. If there was only one immortal king here, I am afraid that he would have been suppressed long ago, or even his body would be gone. But now, there are 5 immortal kings working together. They are not afraid even of the endless power of heaven and earth, and they can withstand the power of heaven and earth. These 4 ancient soldiers of the royal ancestors are controlled by 4 immortal kings from the dark realm behind them. Their appearance represents the 4 immortal kings of the dark realm. Including Enran who came from across the realm, there are a total of 5 deities. Facing so many foreign kings and ancestors, even the power of the natural chasm is difficult to contend with. Immortal king, immortal king. Vaguely, in that distant realm of darkness, it seems that the voices of countless creatures can be heard fanatically shouting. That is the millions of troops in the realm of darkness, standing in front of the natural chasm. They are just waiting for Enran to break through the barrier of the natural chasm, and then they will follow. Then together, we invade the fairy land. On the deserted side of the immortal realm, the decree of the immortal king hangs over the heads of many of the geniuses of the dark realm, like a black sun across the sky, protecting their safety. In the distance, a celestial light passed by, and King Xian's true body descended, replacing the Dharma body. However, he didn't care at all about the golden sacred cow and others under the protection of the immortal king's decree. His eyes just stayed in the direction of the natural mode, full of solemnity. It was just a decree from the immortal king, so it was nothing in front of King Xian. If he wanted to, he could break the royal decree at any time and kill all the geniuses of the dark realm with a single thought. But in front of the coming immortal king Enran, all this is meaningless. If you can't stop Enran from crossing the border, even killing these geniuses from the dark realm will be useless. Moreover, the genius of the dark realm here is not the seed of the dark realm that is truly expected to achieve the king ancestor realm. Even if you kill them, nothing will change. The natural chasm between the two realms has blocked our domain for countless epochs. Today, the natural chasm will open and the immortal domain will perish. Enran shouted angrily, and the majestic Dharma body appeared, towering between heaven and earth. It was an extremely majestic figure, connected to the sky and the earth, like an immortal demon god, coming across the chasm. One after another, the gods were chained, crazily wrapping around Enran's Dharma body. He passed by, but was blocked by him. In the end, Enran roared and held up the sky with one hand. He actually resisted all the power of heaven and earth, held up the entire sky chasm with his hand, and lifted up this immortal chasm. Ha ha ha, the chasm is opening. The immortal king Enran holds his hands up to the sky, standing on the ancient bronze chariot, slowly but firmly stepping towards the fairy land. That kind of supreme power is simply despairing. Enran, you are too trusting. King Xian shouted angrily, finally unable to sit back and watch any longer. His body shook, and the majestic immortal King Dharma body, 1,000,000 miles tall, also appeared, standing between heaven and earth, and then used his supreme magical power, and a galaxy and the universe seemed to appear in his hand. Throw it at Enran. They are both in the immortal king realm, and the power of the Xian king is unmatched. He can create the world with just a raise of his hand, and all creation and death are contained in it. It is like throwing an ancient universe, and it seems that it can destroy the world. Enran resists. The god of heavenly chasm attacked and came across the chasm. This was the moment when he was at his weakest, and it was also the best moment to attack him. Naturally, King Xian would not let go of this opportunity, so he raised his hand and struck out with an extremely sharp blow. Attack, to push Enran back to the dark realm. However, facing the attack of King Xian, Enran did not dodge, but just sneered calmly, as if he had already calculated all this. Immediately, there were 4 people in the direction of the dark realm. The majestic Dharma body connecting the sky and the earth appeared, and they joined forces to strike in the direction of the sky. Even though it was wiped out by the god of the sky, its power was still unparalleled. It collided with King Xian's attack, causing the billions of miles of void there to collapse. Destroy. King Xian, stop making unnecessary attacks. I came across the border today. How could I not have thought of this scene? Enran chuckled, everything was under his control. The volume of the immortal king's decree brought by the golden sacred cow was not so much a representation of the will of the kings as it was used to detect the trends in the immortal realm. Accurate. Everything today is as expected by Enran. In the big competition between the two realms, there is bound to be an immortal king appearing on the immortal domain, but it will not be taken seriously. At most, an immortal king will be dispatched to the border wilderness. It's just the imperial pass. And the final result was not beyond Enran's expectations. Only Xian Wang, an immortal king, came. After investigating all this, Enran did not hesitate and immediately connected with several other immortal kings, broke the natural chasm, and crossed come from the realm. After several eras of exploration, Enran and other immortal kings of the Dark Realm have already discovered that in every era, there will be a period of weakness in the Tianqian. This period is very short, maybe less than 1 day, or maybe only a few short breaths. Today is the time calculated by many immortal kings in the Dark Realm. But now, everything is ready, and the plan will naturally proceed smoothly. Wait until Enran crosses the border, enter the immortal realm, and cooperate with the immortal kings of the Dark Realm, we can successfully open a temporarily stable passage on the sky moat and transport all the billions of Dark Realm soldiers over. The immortal kings of the Dark Realm the king will also cross the border. At that time, it will be the moment when the fairyland is destroyed. Hate it? If King Lotus is here and joins forces with me, maybe we can stop this disaster. King Xian showed a look of despair. If he had promised King Lian to come with him before, maybe the two of them could join forces now to stop Enran from crossing the border. But now it's too late, although he has already sent a message to the immortal realm. However, at this moment, Huang, who had always stood in front of the ancient sky monument, moved. He looked at Enran, his calm voice resounded throughout the world. Interesting, after hundreds of millions of years, the Dark Realm has risen again? It seems that the darkness is not extinct yet, and the pain it brought you in the past is not enough. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 223. Wang's voice was calm and indifferent. But at this moment, it is undoubtedly harsh to the extreme. The immortal king has crossed the border safely, and the entire fairyland is in danger. At this moment, a prehistoric afterimage from hundreds of millions of years ago dares to speak rudely and not take the entire realm of darkness into consideration? How dare a mere prodigy in the supreme realm dare to challenge our realm? Behind the golden sacred cow, a group of geniuses from the Dark Realm looked at Huang angrily. Wang Ziyu and Ran crossed the border and shocked the entire immortal realm. Who is not afraid of the people present? They are just projections left by the supreme geniuses in the past. Dare to despise the entire dark territory, this move simply does not take the dark territory into consideration. He he. The laughter was very faint and sudden, as if it was ringing in the ears, but also as if it was an eternity away. It was difficult to hear clearly, but only the sound could be heard, and the source of the sound could not be traced. Atop the chasm between the two realms, the immortal king Enran finally moved his gaze away and looked at the place where Huang was, with a flash of interest in his eyes. Although he had not crossed the border just now, the scroll of Wang Ziyu's Dharma was aimed at this, and everything had not escaped his attention and control. Wang's performance was naturally noticed by him. It has to be said that even Enran was amazed by the monster of Wang's talent, who used his supreme body to defeat immortality. Is the projection of a genius from endless years ago revealing the history of the past when he spoke these words? Enran whispered to himself. He was also very curious about everything that happened hundreds of millions of years ago. Not only was the historical heritage of the immortal domain almost cut off, but the same was true for the dark domain. It was as if an unparalleled catastrophe had come, erasing two people at the same time. The history of the world. Based on the remaining history at that time, Enran could only determine that the Dark Realm had a great advantage at that time and invaded the immortal realm. But in the end it failed for unknown reasons, and the Dark Realm side suffered heavy losses. History and inheritance are almost cut off. What happened after that? How did the immortal realm survive in the end? What happened to the dark realm? These are questions that Enron is eager to know. Now, there is a billionaire statue. The projection of Tianjiao who appeared a few years ago may contain some memories of the past. If you can get a glimpse of some memories of the past from him, it will definitely be regarded as a great gain. Interesting, maybe I can get some answers from the past from you. Enran chuckled, stretched out a finger, and pointed towards the deserted spot. His movements were extremely relaxed and freehand, as if he did it casually, but the whole world became eclipsed by his simple finger. If this finger is clicked, not only will Wang's projection be erased, but all the memories contained in his projection will also be instantly known to Enran. This is the power of the immortal king. Without this level, they are all ants, and life and death depend on one thought. However, facing Enran's attack, Huang seemed very indifferent. He looked at the finger that covered the world and pressed towards him, with no fear or panic in his eyes. Color, replaced by calm and indifference. Are you sure you can bear the consequences of attacking me? Huang opened his mouth, as if he was asking Enran in return. At the same time, when the giant finger covering the sky came, it seemed to have touched something. Between heaven and earth, it was like a fairy bell was being struck, and it resounded melodiously throughout the heavens. 10,000 worlds. In a trance, it seems that there is an ancient river spanning eternity, emerging from behind Huang, from the most distant ancient times, flowing to the future that is difficult to see clearly. The river is rushing, and every splash of the wave is the rise and fall of a world. This scene is really amazing. As time goes by, the vision becomes even more amazing. Huge waves rise on the river, countless divine thunder explodes in the void, and the air of chaos fills the air. What? Enran was suddenly shocked. This eternal river that suddenly appeared was out of his control. Time has passed, why is it emerging at this moment? Could it be that my action against him involves some past causes and effects? A thought that made Enran somewhat unbelievable flashed through his mind. When one reaches the realm of the immortal king, someone in the world will be aware of his name if he chants it. And there are also powerful people in this realm. He is qualified to travel on the long river of time. Although Wang's projection appears in this world, strictly speaking, this emerging figure of Huang is not in this world, but belongs to hundreds of millions of years ago. Enran took action against him. It is equivalent to attacking the desolate state that existed hundreds of millions of years ago. This is a blow separated by eternity. If it were an ordinary supreme being, it would be nothing to do like this. Even if there is a backlash, with Enran's strength, he can resist it. But now it seems that the origin of this famine is not so simple. In the past, he may have been involved in a big cause and effect. Enran took action against him, causing an unimaginable change. However, even though the long river of time involved appeared, Enran was surprised in his heart, also calmed down in the shortest time. Interesting, I want to see what kind of cause and effect is involved behind you. Enran looked into the depths of the immortal river of time with cold eyes. He is the immortal king, the most supreme being in the dark realm. How could he be frightened by this mere change? The void is shattered, time is dissipated, and Cheng fairy flowers surged across the sky, and at the beginning of the long river of time, a vague shadow appeared, as if standing at the end of heaven and earth. It was a humanoid creature that exuded infinite fairy light. He stood on the eternal universe with his feet above the long river of time. In his eyes, there was a terrifying scene of chaos surging and the world reopening. His eyes seemed to have traveled through eternity, endless time and space, looking in the direction of Enran. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 224. The sudden change not only made Enran slightly shocked, but also the faces of many beings on the border of the fairyland were filled with shock. There is actually a supreme existence that is suspected to have existed endless years ago. It appears in the long river of time and wants to come to this world. How powerful is this? Ignoring the years, going against the past and present, it is simply so powerful that it is difficult to fathom. Huang, this name does not exist in the remaining historical annals, but it can cause changes in the long river of time, which is enough to prove that he was involved in great cause and effect in the past. What was buried endless years ago? King Xian looked into the depths of the mighty river of time, with a look of emotion and shock in his eyes. The existence of the immortal king realm allows him to travel on the river of time. He can even descend into a certain period of time that does not belong to this world. Erase the existence of some creatures. But the premise is that these creatures are not involved in too much cause and effect and cannot affect the course of history. Otherwise, even the existence of the immortal king realm will be counterattacked, because the influence of erasure, the existence of historical process, is equivalent to indirectly changing the entire ancient history, which is a huge cause and effect. Strictly speaking, the desolation that emerges in this world is not the real desolation, but just a projection. But even so, Enron even trying to kill him caused such changes in the long river of time. This is enough to prove how extraordinary the origin of this wilderness is. Is a supreme being related to you? Enran whispered, looking into the depths of the long river of time. He looked majestic and heroic, holding up the two worlds with one hand, and moved to the side with the other hand. An ancient war spear with a golden body appeared from the void, and was captured by him. Hold it in your hand. The war spear is simple, radiant, and filled with chaotic energy. Its sharp edge is unparalleled. Just laying it there makes the surrounding void shatter and melt away. The ancient spear edge seems to be capable of killing. Kill everything in the world. It's Wang Ziu's immortal killing spear. On the side of the dark realm, a genius recognized the origin of this war spear and exclaimed, his eyes full of fanaticism. Several epochs ago, more than one war broke out between the immortal realm and the dark realm. And this golden war spear once transformed into a peerless fierce weapon, bringing an almost nightmarish ending to the immortal realm. Wherever the spear pointed, the true immortal fell, and even the supreme immortal king realm could not escape the blood splatter. On the spot, a sad ending. Enran grabbed the immortal killing spear, stretched out his arms, and the pure golden ancient war spear exuded a supreme aura of killing immortals and gods, and at the same time aimed at the supreme statue deep in the river of time. Exist. It doesn't matter where you come from or what your origins are, you can only return after you take out the immortal killing spear and drink blood. Today, the war spear reappears. How can we return without drinking blood? Enran scolded lightly, waving the war spear, like a dragon traveling around the world, ruling over the 9 heavens, and slashed directly towards the place where the figure stood in the depths of the long river of time. Buzz. The war spear flew across the sky, tearing apart the sky, like it broke eternity, but left an eternal image in the hearts of everyone. Roar. The sound of thunderous roars exploded, the ancient war spears flew across the sky, and the fighting spirit soared into the sky. That was the invincible battle formed by Enran. The intention. Now with the help of this ancient spear, it can be reflected. Everything in the direction of the spear was shattered, chaos exploded, the world was shattered, and even endless phantoms of gods and demons emerged, visions appeared, and terror was boundless. This is shocking. A spear in the world, an invincible spear. The ancient war spear that has not appeared in the world for a long time is now being held safely, finally blooming with peerless brilliance. That kind of power and majesty is like that even though it is separated by the endless river of history, it still remains able to reach the end, kill the enemy, and drink blood. Many creatures in the dark realm looked fanatical and worshipped devoutly, shouting the name of the immortal king loudly. The power of the spear shocked them and made them fanatical. The respect for the immortal king is deeper in my heart. Safely. Facing this shocking blow, deep in the long river of time, the figure surrounded by endless chaos energy finally spoke. He gently raised his palm, and the endless Tao was born and died in his palm, and the chaos energy filled the air, as if reopening a universe. This is the way of the heavens, appearing one by one and repeating itself in the palm of this mysterious existence. Boom! Then, this mysterious supreme being turned his palm and struck in the direction of the golden war spear. It was just a simple palm, but the changes it brought were extremely astonishing. The world was trembling, the river of time was surging, and thousands of people were wailing. What a terrifying method! King Xian couldn't help but change his expression. In the palm of his hand, he evolved all the ways of the heavens and opened up the world. This kind of method, even the giants in the immortal king realm, may not be able to do it so easily. This is an extremely amazing palm, turning the world upside down, destroying everything, and destroying everything. The laws of the heavens, wrapped in the supreme will, crossed the long river of time, and hit the golden war spear hard. A scene appeared that made many creatures in the dark territory suddenly lose their voices. The golden war spear that seemed to be capable of destroying heaven and earth was moved forward in an indomitable manner. It was actually sent flying horizontally by that seemingly simple palm. It splashed countless waves and fell into the long river of time. With just one palm, then he easily and freely knocked down the immortal king and ran with one blow, shocking the world for eternity. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 225. To have such fighting power. Enran's expression changed, and for the first time, his eyes looking into the depths of the river of time were filled with a solemn look. He raised his hand and threw a blow. Although it was not a full blow, it still contained unimaginable majesty. Even King Xian couldn't deal with this blow so easily and naturally. But now, a mysterious existence that emerged from the depths of time easily resisted his attack, which made Enran feel surprised and dignified. Very good, after hundreds of millions of years, I finally met such an opponent who can be my enemy. I just don't know, what's your name? Enran chuckled, regaining his previous attitude of being in control of everything and supreme. You attack me and you don't know who I am. At the far end of the long river of time, the mysterious being shrouded in the mist of chaos whispered quietly. The mist of chaos dissipated, revealing his true appearance. What? This? When they saw the true appearance of this mysterious being, a gasp of air rang out from the border between the two realms. That figure standing at the end of the long river of time is actually Huang. It's just that it is a more powerful existence than the current Huang. In the future, you will grow into a giant in the immortal king realm. No wonder. Enran turned to look at Huang standing in front of the ancient monument, with a clear look in his eyes. No wonder, his attack on a little guy who only had the cultivation level of the supreme realm would cause such a big change. It turns out that this person has grown up in the future and is a real giant in the immortal king realm. And many geniuses in the dark realm are no match for this person, and they all have reasonable explanations. A being who can grow into a giant in the immortal king realm in the future will naturally be a being who can overwhelm his peers and be the invincible one in the era. How could an ordinary genius be his opponent? Pushing everything aside and defeating the strong with the weak, this is something that all creatures who can grow into the immortal king realm can do. So what if we grow into a giant in the immortal king realm in the future? None of us has ever conquered this realm. Existences that existed hundreds of millions of years ago should long ago return to dust and dust to dust. Enran didn't care. The bronze chariot under his feet glowed, and endless killing intent swept across the sky, shattering the sky. Killing intent swept into the sky, and finally, the rolling killing intent condensed together and turned into a colorful spear that killed the sky. Killing towards Huang, who stands at the end of the long river of time. This spear embodies the killing intent of an immortal king of the dark realm. Even the immortal king does not dare to fight against this shocking blow. However, facing this attack, Huang remained calm and easily repelled it. Come again. And Ran shouted angrily. The golden war spear that had fallen into the long river of time reappeared, sweeping through the 3,000 worlds, rebelling against the 9 heavens, and riding through the thorns and waves on the long river of time. One after another, the newly born world was destroyed by the golden war spear. The spear edge tore apart and turned into nothingness. Kill! And Ran roared angrily, his supreme will attached to the golden war spear, and his murderous intent split the sky. This time, he finally tried his best, and all his Taoism blossomed. On the side of the dark domain, the soldiers of the 4 immortal kings, the blade, under the urging of the master behind it, exploded briefly, resisting the pressure of the natural chasm for Ran, allowing him to explode with all his strength without any scruples. This blow was Ran's full explosion. Ran's eyes were filled with tears, showing a look called confidence. Who can resist his full blow? Even those who are in the realm of the immortal king will have to pay a heavy price. This is a spear that can be called world-destroying, tearing everything apart, leveling everything. However, in the face of this stunning and extremely powerful blow, Huang remained calm, allowing the spear to hit, still standing, unmoving, but faintly stretched out his left hand, as white as jade. Boom! Infinite divine light erupted, covering everything. Finally, when the divine light and chaotic energy faded away, the river of time calmed down again, and everyone finally saw the final result. However, the result made everyone feel unbelievable. Even in Ran there was a look of disbelief in their eyes. The long river of time was surging, with divine thunder rolling on it, and chaotic energy lingering on it. After experiencing the shocking blow just now, the violent collision caused a piece of the long river of time to rise. It was chaotic and difficult to see clearly. However, when the powerful fluctuations subsided and the divine thunder dissipated, what appeared in front of us was a scene that made all living beings lose their voices and tremble. At the end of the long river of time, a line of white clothes, the peerless figure stood quietly on the long river of time. His thick black hair was casually scattered behind his shoulders, dancing with the wind. His aura was very attractive. Just standing like that, he gave off a sense of arrogance. His heroic spirit. And in front of him, there was a golden spear exuding infinite killing intent, stagnating in front of him, trembling gently. However, it is this spear that is said to be able to penetrate all the worlds. The ancient war spear that destroyed the universe in the universe was now being resisted by Wang's palm. It was shaking violently, but could not move at all. The jade-white palm was pressed against the spear edge, like a rock, without any trembling. So simply blocked Ran's shocking spear. There was not even a single scratch on that palm. Asking for a monthly ticket. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 226. A palm as white as jade, like a curtain covering the sky, stood quietly in front of this ancient weapon that was said to be indestructible and had killed those in the immortal king realm. Without even the slightest tremor, he simply blocked Ran's shocking spear. You receive shock points from the immortal king Enron Plus. You receive shocking points from King Xian Plus. You receive shocking points from the immortal king Kanda Plus. You receive shocking points from King Kun, the immortal king Plus. Massive shock points rose crazily. Just looking at the system panel, Qin Mu could tell how shocked these immortal kings of the Dark Realm were at this moment. Indeed, Ran's combat prowess is at the top even among the many immortal kings in the Dark Realm. He tried his best to strike, and even if he was confident that he could block it for a being who was also in the immortal king realm, he would definitely not do it in such a relaxed and freehand way. It was as if Ran's attack was so vulnerable in the eyes of this being named Huang that it could be easily resolved. However, this situation was naturally expected by Qin Mu. At the beginning, when he had Xian Huang's combat power, he had set his sights on being invincible in the Immortal King realm. Although Enran is strong, among the beings in the Immortal King realm, he can only be regarded as a giant-like being at most. He is far from being invincible, so he will naturally not be Wang's opponent. However, Enran would naturally not know this. At this moment, there was uncontrollable shock and disbelief in his eyes as he looked into the depths of the long river of time. This is impossible. Enran murmured softly, as if she didn't believe what just happened. However, what happened next was far beyond Enran's understanding. The golden war spear trembled fiercely and struggled forward, as if trying to break through the wild palm. As an ancient soldier of the royal ancestor, it has already channeled spirits. It has met gods and killed gods, met demons and slain demons. When has it ever been blocked so easily? But now, no matter how hard it tries, it can't move any further. Immediately afterwards, Huang even turned his palm and grabbed the war spear in his hand. It is rude to come and go without reciprocating. Huang Qingyu, regardless of the fierce trembling and resistance of the golden war spear, turned around and threw it back in the direction of Enran. Kill me and I will give you the same gift. Wang's calm and indifferent voice echoed over the long river of time. The golden war spear thrown by him flew backwards in the direction of Enran. However, compared with the earth-shattering movement when Enran just attacked, it was nothing at this moment. The golden war spear flying back looked very calm and simple. It didn't even exude the slightest earth-shattering aura. It looked ordinary and had no power at all. If it weren't for Huang who threw it, it would have been so easy just now. Blocking Enran's blow, I'm afraid no one will take this blow seriously. What is this doing? Is it deliberately returning the weapon to Prince Enran? Many creatures in the Dark Realm saw the scene and were displeased. Solution, with a look of confusion on his face. However, unlike these ordinary creatures in the Dark Realm, whether it was Enran, several other immortal kings, or even King Xian, when they saw this ancient flying back, after fighting the spear, everyone couldn't help but change their expressions. Roar! Enran roared. For the first time, his face lost the calm look, and his expression became extremely serious. He cultivated his momentum to the highest level, connected his boundless body to the sky, and used all his strength to defend. It seemed that he was guarding against this one blow, puzzling. A seemingly powerless blow actually made Enran so fearful? Is there something else going on in it? On the side of the immortal realm, a true immortal couldn't help but ask. A powerless blow? No, this is an extremely powerful blow. King Xian shook his head slightly, his words full of shock. This spear is terrifying to the extreme. King Xian's evaluation puzzled many creatures in the immortal realm. How could Luang's casual throw with one hand get such a high evaluation from King Xian? How terrifying is this blow? The reason why no breath was leaked out from this blow and it seemed extremely calm was because this blow did not belong to this world at all. This war spear and us are separated by eternity at this moment. We can only see it but cannot touch it. In other words, this spear is unsolvable in this world. What it kills is the future or the past. But whether it is the past or the future, as long as he gets his hands on it, Enran will be wiped out in this world. King Xian sighed with emotion. This is the supreme avenue of time and space, and even giants in the immortal king realm who can travel on the long river of time have difficulty comprehending it. And this Huang, with just one casual blow, he seemed to have understood everything, and the great road of time and space was at his fingertips, and I couldn't do it? A blow that does not exist in this world? Even King Xian is ashamed. After hearing King Xian's words, many creatures in the fairyland were finally shocked and speechless. This level of attack has exceeded beyond the scope of their understanding. Not to kill the current world, but to kill the past or future body. Has there really ever been such a being in the world? It is simply beyond people's imagination. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 227. The golden war spear trembled lightly, traveling on the long river of time, passing through periods of history and years, and attacked Enran. Waves of waves splashed up and then fell. Every wave is a world and a period of immortal time. And as the ancient war spear passed by these waves, the sounds of exclamation came one after another on the edge of the fairyland. I have seen this spear before. A foreign immortal screamed, his eyes filled with panic and disbelief. Just now, at the moment when the ancient war spear passed by, a memory suddenly appeared in his mind. It was a scene millions of years ago. He once saw this ancient war spear passing before his eyes, across the entire world. And the target that the war spear wanted to kill was none other than the immortal king Enran. This is a memory from millions of years ago. Appeared in the mind of this immortal creature out of thin air, but it was so real. It was indeed something that had happened in the past. Not only him, but many creatures in the dark realm also began to scream one after another. Because in their minds, a memory of the past appeared in them all. Although the time and place were different, they all experienced the same thing. They all witnessed a golden war spear piercing the sky, traversing the world, and attacking the immortal king Enran. This is incomparable horrible, a scene beyond the understanding of all living beings. Every inch the ancient war spear moves forward is equivalent to changing history. Every living being is a witness to history. This attack method is completely beyond everyone's expectations and imagination. No wonder King Xian would say that this spear is extremely terrifying. In the face of turbulent times and changing history, is this what you rely on? If you do this, aren't you afraid of being liquidated? Enran roared. Even though he was fully alert, he still had a feeling of impending disaster. Because this attack did not exist in this world. Even if Enran tried his best to defend himself, it would still be of no use because the target of this spear was not him at all. Although the immortal king can travel across the long river of time, and even sent down his divine consciousness thousands of years ago to kill one or two supreme geniuses at will. But there is a premise for all of this, that is, what he did not involve as history changes, it is just an insignificant part. However, no immortal king dares to cross the long river of history and attack beings in the same realm. Because the existence of the immortal king realm involves too many causes and effects. To attack such an existence, just the backlash of time and reincarnation is enough to make the existence in the realm of the immortal king fall. And now, Huang is so unscrupulous across history to attack Enran. Even if he really kills Enran, that terrifying the force of the backlash is definitely not something he can bear. You still don't understand that time, reincarnation, and the immortal king realm are also untouchable. But now you are the cause and I am the effect. Cause and effect are above reincarnation and time. If you move the years rashly, cause and effect will be involved. You are the cause and I am the effect. Even if I take action against you, what's the harm? Huang said calmly. Strictly speaking, it was Enran who took the lead in attacking Huang in the Supreme Realm, which attracted Huang from the Immortal King Realm to come to the rescue in the future. And the power of cause and effect has to surpass time. Therefore, the immortal, the desolation in the King Realm and the attack on Enran are the result of the fate of cause and effect, and are allowed by time. It turned out to be so. Enran looked solemn. Unexpectedly, everything was caused by myself. But now, he is powerless to change all this and can only fight with all his strength. Boom. Finally, the ancient war spear swept across the entire river of time and arrived in front of Enran. Immediately afterwards, there was a scene that took everyone's breath away and will be unforgettable for a lifetime. The ancient war spear arrived, and then endless shadows of the world appeared around Enran. Those are all Enran at different times and different places. The only thing that was the same was that they both had a powerful and immortal ancient war spear that flew across the sky and struck him, causing an extremely fierce collision. In this world, Enran, looking at the scene of destruction, feels horrified and has a feeling of powerlessness. He could do nothing but wait quietly for the final result. Enron was attacked in different time and space and different years. Even if there is one area that cannot withstand it, he will suffer corresponding trauma. If Enran dies in another time and space, he will also perish with him. Because he is dead in the past, how can he exist now? The spear cuts through the world and is astonishing for eternity. Finally, the Golden War Spear became calm. The phantoms of the past or future world were also extinguished one by one. In the end, Enran flew out without any warning, his chest exploded, the immortal king's blood flowed out, and his whole body almost exploded completely and turned into nothingness. This is the result of the causes of the past exerted on the present body. Luang's casual throw, a blow that was out of this world, almost caused Enran to fall. But fortunately, Enran survived. After all, he is a strong man in the immortal king realm, and he survived with his strong strength. But even so, he still suffered a complete defeat in this duel with Huang. The other party just made a simple move, and it was his weapon, which severely damaged Enran. This is the destruction of myths and the end of history. This is the beginning of another legend. Huang, this name is buried in the dust of history. Now like a pearl, it appears in front of the world, shining brightly. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 228. Throughout eternity, the years of chaos are reversed. Such a terrifying blow, even if he is as noble as the immortal King Enran, he will still be severely injured and dimmed. Tick-tock, the pure black immortal king's blood flowed across the river, and he stood there quietly, his body covered with wounds. In various years and time and space, Enran has been attacked, some were blocked, and some were not blocked. Naturally, there was more than one injury. The trauma suffered by Enran in multiple time and space converged, which resulted in the current result. Wounds of varying depths were all over the body. The most terrifying wound was on the chest, which almost penetrated the entire chest. Half of the heart was even exposed, beating powerfully, as if it was singing in harmony with the world. It stands to reason that even if the immortal king is injured, as long as he has a breath left, he can reshape his supreme true body without showing any scars at all. But this is not the case for Enran at this moment, because the wounds on his body surface have the breath of time flowing in each wound. The wounds were old, as if they had been separated by eternity. That is, the injuries that existed in this life are superimposed into the results of this life. It is not so easy to clear away. Clang. The ancient Golden War Spear finally returned to Enran's control. But at this moment, the Golden War Spear was completely dull, with cracks all over it. It would never regain its former glory. At this moment, all the creatures in the Dark Realm looked at the scene in disbelief, as if someone was holding them by the throat. Enran has always been synonymous with invincibility in the minds of these creatures in the Dark Realm. But now, the myth of invincibility has been broken. Such an embarrassed Enran is something that these creatures in the Dark Realm have never seen and dare not think about. However, Enran lived up to the name of the immortal king ancestor. Although he looked a little embarrassed, he adjusted his mentality in the shortest time and once again held his spear high and showed unrivaled courage. You are very strong and can be called the strongest enemy I have ever encountered in this life. But after all, it existed hundreds of millions of years ago, and everything has changed from dust to dust, and dust to dust. Today, no one can stop the progress of our world. Enran roared, with overwhelming fighting spirit rising. He no longer bothered to care about Huang, but strenuously stepped forward, crossed the immortal chasm, and descended into the immortal realm. The king of all realms is coming. Enran shouted, raised his spear to the sky, and resisted the power of the natural chasm. Immediately, The endless aura of the immortal king filled the air, spanning the two realms, and temporarily opened the natural chasm, forming a passage connecting the two worlds. It's just one person, but he still wants to go against the will of heaven. Retreat the enemy first, then level the immortal realm. Fellow Taoist Ran, I'm here to help you. A cold voice sounded from the realm of darkness. The four immortal kings' weapons that were originally straddling the sky above the chasm were all glowing at the moment. They descended into the fairyland through the passage opened by Ran, exuding a powerful aura, with a kind of suppress the invincible spirit of ancient and modern times. Although the four immortal kings of the Dark Realm have not come across the realm yet, they have already condensed all their Taoism and magic power into the ancient soldiers in their hands. They are coming first. Help each other and stay safe. The ancient weapons flew across the sky, exuding the aura of incomparable power, shocking the heaven and the earth. They came tearing apart the heaven and the earth, and descended on the edge of the fairyland, just like the arrival of four immortal kings. Oops! King Xian's eyes were extremely solemn. The development of the situation was beyond his imagination. Originally, even if there was a passage connecting the two worlds built by Enron, it was still very difficult for the immortal king to cross the chasm. But now, it is not the real immortal king who crosses the border, but their weapons, which naturally makes it much more difficult. Although these four immortal king soldiers are not as good as the real immortal king, they can temporarily exert the immortal king's combat power, equivalent to the presence of the immortal king in person. Now, Ran alone, plus four immortal king weapons, is equivalent to the presence of five immortal kings in person. Although it is only temporary, he can still sweep across the heavens and be invincible in the world. King Xian he couldn't help but cast his gaze on the figure deep in the long river of time. In his opinion, no matter how strong Huang was, he still might not be able to be an enemy of these five immortal kings. Moreover, this was not Wang's real body, but the one who was hundreds of millions of years away. The manifestation of 10,000 years of time. Being able to severely damage Ran is already the limit. How can we resist the four immortal kings? Defeat him first, then seek the immortal realm. Do you really think you are invincible? The king and ancestor of my domain cannot be bullied. When we come, even this day will be overthrown by us. No one can defeat us from ancient times to the present. The four immortal king's soldiers flew across the sky, exuding unparalleled powerful fluctuations. They were trembling one after another, and a shadow that covered the sky and the sun appeared behind these ancient soldiers. They were the immortal kings of the Dark Realm. Dharmakaya descended into the immortal realm. The five immortal kings worked together to attack Huang and repel him. However, facing all this, Huang seemed very indifferent. He chuckled and did not look at these immortals. King, but set his sights on the depths of the long river of time. Do you think it's just me who is related to my past life? Wrong. The depth of cause and effect involved in my past life is beyond your imagination. The indifferent words made the immortal kings couldn't help but tremble. They couldn't help but cast their gaze into the depths of the long river of time. Could it be that there will be another powerful person appearing? Just when they thought so, time from the depths of the river, two indescribable auras rose into the sky again. Each aura was extremely powerful, indistinguishable from the wild. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 229. What? A series of eyes full of incredible meaning, all focused on the depths of the long river of time. Obviously, they did not expect such changes to occur. It's just a desolate one. Is there anyone else? I don't believe it. What qualifications does he have to be involved in such a big cause and effect? If there really were several existences like this in history, how could it be the world in our domain today? An immortal king doesn't believe it. But no matter how much they don't believe it, deep in the long river of time, those two completely different but equally supreme auras are becoming more intense and real. In the end, all living beings are extremely shocked. A scene appeared. At the end of the ancient river of time, not far from the wilderness, a figure was gradually becoming real from illusion, as if it had traveled across eternity of time and space. What kind of figure was that? The whole body was covered with layers of the immortal light was lingering, and only an incomparable aura was pulsating, while an immortal cauldron made of nine-color immortal gold was suspended above his head, hanging down thousands of black and yellow auras. Buzz. The long river of time trembled. Following this figure after that, another figure appeared. It was a majestic and powerful figure. He just stood there quietly, but there was an aura of reincarnation flowing around him. A chaos divine bell hung above his head. The divine bell shook, shocking the heavens and the earth. In the void, along with the ringing of ancient bells that seemed to be the beginning of the world, squares of ancient universes were born and perished, and the true meaning of reincarnation was revealed. There are actually two supreme beings. Such a strong aura, enough to rival us. The immortal kings were all shocked by the sudden appearance of the two figures. They never thought that in the distant river of time, two such existences would appear again, and they were both related to Huang. Are there two more unheard of beings from that long time ago? Who are you? An immortal king soldier trembled slightly, asking questions on behalf of the king ancestor behind it, asking about the identities of these two people. No matter who they are all in this realm and have once ruled the world. How can we be afraid of them? Wang Zuqianchuo sneered, and used his Dharma body to urge the immortal king's sword in his hand, swinging it forward, and slashed directly at the mysterious existence with the chaos immortal cauldron above his head. Who I am? Facing Qinchuo, who was slashing at him, the figure standing at the end of the long river of time finally moved. He stretched out his jade white palm, clenched it into a fist, and swung his fist to kill Qinchuo. As the Emperor of Heaven, I should suppress all enemies in the world. The sound of shouting sounded, filled with the belief that I am invincible. If everyone in the lower world is here, they will definitely be able to recognize this person's identity. Human race, Emperor Yetian. His fist is blazing, and chaos surges around the fist, with 6 ancient pieces. The universe rotates around it, is generated and destroyed, and contains great vitality and great terror. Clang. Thousands of immortal black and yellow gases falling from the mysterious immortal cauldron are wrapped around the immortal king's sword in Qinchuo's hand, as if to destroy it. Blocked. But after all, it was just the spontaneous action of the immortal cauldron and was not prompted by Emperor Yetian. Therefore, after Qiantuo broke free, the immortal king's sword in his hand finally got rid of its restraints and continued to attack Emperor Yetian. Hey, he's just a king's soldier, but he still wants to defy heaven. Qiantuo sneered, and boundless divine light bloomed all over his body, and a terrifying power that overwhelmed the world was erupted, all contained in the immortal king's sword in his hand, and he slashed Emperor Yetian. Looking for a fight. Under the chaos immortal cauldron, Emperor Yetian has a breathtaking appearance, with thick hair flying, and he is extremely heroic. In front of the immortal King Qinchuo, he has no fear and no mercy. He is like a peerless king, looking down at him. The person who came after. Jiang. Finally, Emperor Yetian's fist collided with the immortal king's sword in Qiantuo's hand, making a roaring sound that shocked the world. In just a short moment, Emperor Yetian's fist, he had fought with Qiantuo's king's sword millions of times. But in the end, something shocking happened to the world. When the physical fist and the divine weapon intersected, the immortal king's sword in Qiantuo's hand was hit high by the bullet. He stood up, sparks flew everywhere, and he almost couldn't control himself, causing Wang Jian to fly backwards. What a weird way. Qian Tuo couldn't help but whisper. Every time the opponent's fist swings, he feels like he is contending with several ancient universes. And as time went by, the weight of the pieces of the universe became heavier and heavier, which actually gave Qian Tuo an illusion that he couldn't bear it. On the other side, the figure with the Chaos Divine Bell above its head also moved. He was as fast as wind and thunder, waving his left and right hands at the same time, and each made an ancient seal. Boom! The ancient and prehistoric energy suddenly emerged and surged in his palms. He made two seals with his hands. One seal seemed to encompass an infinite universe of heaven and earth, and the other seal seemed to condense eternal time. One U seal and one curse seal represent eternal time and space respectively. Then, he put his hands together to form an extremely mysterious seal, filled with the breath of the universe, and the breath of the universe, erupting with a power that made all the kings and ancestors of the Dark Realm tremble with fear. That is the power of reincarnation, representing the true reincarnation and destiny. As time goes by, who is the peak at the end of the immortal road? I am without beginning. The burly figure holding the cosmic reincarnation seal finally spoke. He strode forward and walked directly towards the weapons of two immortal kings, wanting to fight the two immortal kings alone. At this moment, the human celestial emperor and the Wuxi emperor, they all appear. Together with Huang, we will fight against the five immortal kings of the Dark Realm. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 230. Emperor Yetian attacked the immortal King Qinchuo, and Emperor Wuxi held the seal of Wuxi in his hand to fight against the other two immortal kings. Moreover, the two of them faced almost the same situation. Both Qinchuo and the other two immortal kings were being suppressed and beaten by each other. Emperor Yetiandi waved his divine fist, shaping the universe in his palms, as if representing the ultimate in ancient power, completely overwhelming Qinchuo and unable to lift his head. As for the Emperor Wuxi, he held the U seal in his left hand and the universe seal in his right hand. The two seals combined to create the supreme power of reincarnation. The two immortal kings who fought against him did not dare to let this power touch them. Because it involves taboo power, even if they are not really here, if they are hit by this power, their true bodies will be implicated. This scene shocked all living beings in the immortal realm. You receive shocking points from King Xian Plus. You receive shocking points add 515-4211 from Qinjiu. You received shocking points add 312-5812 from Yawuchen. You received shocking points add 113-5812 from Huangjukan. Billions of years ago, were there really such supreme beings born in our fairyland? Unbelievable, unbelievable. Even the immortal king is no match for him, he is too powerful. On the side of the fairyland, many creatures murmured to themselves, their eyes full of shock. I originally thought that just one person would be the limit. Who would have thought that in the depths of this distant river of time, two more supreme beings would emerge, both of them as desolate and unparalleled in their grace. Just when Emperor Yetian and Emperor Wuxi were pressing each other's three immortal kings to fight, Huang Yi moved. He stretched out a palm and reached into the river of time, as if summoning something. Buzz. The long river of time trembled and surged, and there was a constant clanging sound in it, as if a peerless weapon was about to rush out of it. This kind of breath. The immortal king in the same row as Enran showed solemnity and surprise. It was like the aura exuded by some kind of supreme weapon, and it actually made his immortal king's soldiers tremble a little. But how is this possible? The immortal king's arms, forged by the immortal king, is the pinnacle and ultimate of weapons in the world. Even if the world turns around and eras change, this weapon will remain forever and no one can break it. But now, just the aura emerging from the immortal river of time has actually caused such a change in his immortal king's soldiers. Whoosh! Just when the immortal king was doubtful, on the distant river of time, a fairy light tore through the sky, soared from the river, and almost cut the river of time into two. It was a sword embryo. It looked plain and simple on the outside, but it had an unparalleled sense of mystery. Buzz. The fierce trembling sounds continued, and this magical sword embryo seemed to have received some kind of inspiration. It suddenly bloomed with immeasurable divine material, cut across the long river of time, and flew to the place where Huang was. The ancient sword embryo, like a flying fairy light, spanned history, flew in front of Huang, and was held in his hand, distant and mysterious. Weird sword embryo. It contains great secrets and great horrors, which need to be dealt with carefully. The two immortal kings commented with extremely serious eyes. Although they did not know the origin of the sword embryo, they could vaguely sense and detect something. Knowing that this sword embryo was not what it seemed on the surface. So simple. Huang stood with the sword embryo, his eyes locked on the immortal king beside and ran, and finally slowly waved the ancient sword embryo in his hand, taking the lead. When he moved with the sword, the terrifying vision finally appeared. Above the boundless chasm, there is a blood-red color, like a boundless sea of red blood, occupying the entire sky, terrifying and terrifying. Tick-tock dash. There is sticky blood dripping from the air, and the smell of blood is stinging. Nose, there is a feeling that the end of the world is about to come. And behind the wilderness, above the sky, in the boundless sea of blood, there is an ancient bronze coffin emerging. The ancient coffin is very simple, and there is nothing surprising about it. But inside the coffin, bursts of unspeakable terrifying aura rose and rolled, as if it was pregnant with a supreme being. The red blood dripped from the edge of the ancient coffin, and turned into a sea of blood, covering the 9 days, a red color, there is nothing else. The bones of hundreds of millions of creatures are rising and falling in the sea of blood. These bones are all different, but without exception, they all exude unparalleled and powerful fluctuations. At the end, they are above the realm of true immortals. The existence in the world. On the sea of blood, thousands of bones are floating up and down, but only this ancient bronze coffin is drifting alone and will last forever. On top of the ancient coffin, there is a mysterious creature sitting cross-legged, holding an ancient sword embryo, looking at 10 people. Fang. This is an extremely shocking scene. On top of the ancient bronze coffin, there is only one person sitting alone, as if drifting in the boundless sea of blood for eternity. Kill. The immortal king beside and roared angrily and came towards Huang. He was afraid. The scene before him was really beyond his understanding. Therefore, the immortal king did not want to sit back and watch like this anymore and wanted to take action in advance. Come. When Anran saw this, he didn't show any weakness, and once again unleashed his strongest combat power to face Huang. The murderous intent emitted by the two immortal kings at the same time swept through the sky and went straight to the sky. Even the boundless sea of blood in the sky began to boil. But in the face of all this, Huang's response was extremely simple and straightforward. He just calmly raised the sword embryo in his hand, passed through the air, and struck the head of the immortal king beside and ran.